Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Mayer, and I'm a distinguished Toastmaster in District 3. And today we're going to talk about speech contest judging. And there are several different types of contests. So we have our club contest, we have our area contest, we have our division contest, and then we have our district contests, all within District 3. And those are some of the things you may be asked to judge those contests. And so it's really important that all our judges have an understanding of the contest. The winner from District 3 will move on and can even compete in the international competition. Today, we're going to focus on some judging tips for judges. You can be a judge if you are interested. Please feel free to let us know. We would love to have you judge. So let's talk about speech contests and judging. So the first thing is the judges come in and they have one really big role, and that is to pick the winner, which is super exciting. Our speech contest, we always get to hear great speeches, and the judge's role really is to pick the winner. Many times people think the judge's role is to critique the speech, but it's not. It's to pick the winner. All right. And our speech contests do provide a competitive speaking experience for Toastmasters. The members, the public that's attending, as well as the audience that may just be there from the public or members. And so it's vital that our judges are able to provide solid judging that follows the guidelines of Toastmasters. And good judging really does impart a feeling of fairness to contestants and the audience, and that the right choice was made. So it's really important that our judges do provide good judging, and they know how to do that. So hopefully today we will provide you with the tools to become a good judge. I know that some of you may have been to a contest and thought, they didn't really pick the winner. That happened to me. I actually attended a contest and I was like, that's not the person I thought should win. But when I actually went back and looked at the judge's scorecard, I realized based on the scorecard and the qualifications and the charge that the judges were asked to make, they actually did pick the winner. So I think oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. So today we are going to talk about a couple of things so that you can feel confident as a judge and know what your role is. So the first thing we're going to talk about are some contest roles. We want to make sure you understand what your role is as a judge and what everyone else's role is as a contest chair or whatever their role may be. We're going to talk a little bit about the judging guidelines, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to practice with the scorecard. And we want you to do that on your own since this is pre-recorded, but I do want you to take the time to practice. And maybe you do it at your home club and practice there, or maybe you do that while you're listening to other speeches. Obviously, you have many opportunities to hear people speak. So the more familiar you are and the more practice you've done on the scorecard, the better. All right. We're also going to, during this workshop, we're going to talk about the different contest roles, because judges have a very specific role and everybody else has a specific role as well. So our contest chairmen, they're really responsible for making sure that the contest goes well. They will have a hand in almost every role during the contest. And it's really important to know who your contest chairman is. You may not have much interaction with them at the district level, but at the club level, you may know them. But please make sure you know who the contest chair is. They're really responsible for making sure that that contest goes off without a hitch. And they will be typically the one leading some of the functionaries as well. We have our timers. Our timers are responsible for timing the speech. And that sounds so easy, but many new judges get really concerned about if the speech is too long or if the person's going over or anything like that. Rest assured, you don't need to do that because our timers will do that for you. So you don't need to worry about how long or how short a speech was. They will take care of that. We have our ballot counters. The ballot counters are responsible for collecting the ballots from you as a judge. So many times they'll be standing around the room. You'll know who your ballot counters are, and they'll know who you are as well. They'll be able to identify you. So in an in-person contest, you're going to hold up your ballot in an envelope, and your ballot counters will be the ones to come over and collect that ballot. The person you will work with most likely and most often is the chief judge. And the chief judge is there to make sure you have all the tools you need to be a judge. And so it's really important that you know who your chief judge is. You follow their direction, you check for their email. They're going to make sure you're qualified to judge. They're going to make sure that you know what to do. You have all the papers you need to be able to judge effectively. And they're also going to be the one you go to if there is an issue. You will also have other judges, and you will judge with them. And you will know who those judges are because you'll attend a briefing with those judges and the chief judge. There will be one judge that you will not know the identity to. That's the tie-breaking judge. And the tie-breaking judge will only be known by the chief judge. So the chief judge is going to know who that is. And in the case of a tie, they will figure out what they need to do to break that tie by using the tiebreaker's ballot. So just so you know, you'll have many judges and you'll have a tiebreaker judge. And then you'll also have the contestants. And it's really important as a judge that you're not out there promoting that you are a judge or telling the contestants that you are a judge. You really want to make sure that your anonymity is held. So we don't like people to know who the judges are because we don't want undue or unnecessary bias. So there will be contestants, and then there will also be audience members. There'll be people attending the contest because they want to hear the great speeches. So they may be Toastmasters or they may not be Toastmasters, and you'll want to be able to interact with them. So you're here for judges training. So let's talk about what judges do. So our judges have an obligation to a couple of groups of people. So the first one is to the contestants. The contestants have worked really hard and they've practiced, but they're nervous. And so contestants are entitled to a professional performance by each judge. We want to make sure that as a judge, you're fair, you're impartial, and we owe it to our contestants who have worked so hard on these contest speeches. You also have a duty to Toastmasters International because we have a reputation for speech training, excellence in meetings, and in speech contests, quite frankly. So bad judging creates animosity and demeans the brand of Toastmasters. So just know when you are judging, you're not only representing yourself, you're representing Toastmasters International. You also have a duty to the audience. The audience deserves for a good speech contest. They deserve for it to be fair, unbiased. And when judges make the wrong choice, the audience is kind of confused. They also maybe are discouraged from attending. Now, sometimes you've made the right choice as a judge, but they don't know what's being judged upon. So it's up to the contest chairman to provide what the judges are looking for. So just so you know, you do have a duty to the audience. And then you also have a duty as a Toastmaster to make a personal commitment to self-improvement. And being a judge really helps you to make good decisions and to evaluate and do things quickly and choose a winner. So that's what's really important. So let's talk a little bit about the duties of a judge. So the first thing is the judge's purpose is to select the speaker, one, who has given the best speech on that day. So judges do not evaluate. So you're not going to evaluate a speech. You're not going to measure the speaker's presentation against a former speech. You're not going to give an advice on how they can improve. You're really there to make a decision on who has given the best speech that day. And judges' decisions, just so you know, are confidential. You don't need to explain your decision to the contestants or explain how contestants can improve. That we really want to make sure you're not doing that, because that distracts judges from their purpose. And it can cause you to judge improperly, because if you know you have to talk to a contestant or provide feedback, you're looking at it from a different lens. So we want to make sure that our judges know that your decision is confidential, but we want to make sure that you're making a good decision. So let's talk a little bit about that. Judges need to be focused on speeches, not the time of speeches, and they need to avoid bias and support the rules and really think about their role. It's really easy for judges to be thinking about other things. We're all Toastmasters, we're all leaders. Sometimes we're thinking about the time or everything that needs to get done. And so you're there to have a clear mind and be a good judge. So how do you know if you can be a good judge? So here are the qualities for good judges. So there's a couple. The first one is you must be trustworthy. So good judges know that all contestant participants have entrusted them with the responsibility of selecting the best speaker as winner, and the best speaker as a winner. And so as judges, you need to live up to that. We do need judges that are knowledgeable. We want to make sure that they know the contest rules. More importantly, because you do have a chief judge and a contest manager who know the rules. So if you don't have the rules memorized, rest assured, it's okay. You have somebody you could go to. But you need to know the contest rules. But most importantly, you need to study before each contest the scorecard. You need to become familiar with that form and know how to judge properly. Because when the speech is going on, if that's the first time you looked at what you're judging on, that's not good. So you really need to be knowledgeable. You do need to be a good listener, able to tune out everything else that may be going on in the room. Oh, they're bringing in the bagels or something like that. So good judges listen carefully to each speaker and they don't become distracted. They're not thinking about their grocery list or anything like that after. We do want you to be a little analytical, able to make decisions very quickly. And we want you to be accurate. So good judges are committed to making the correct decision and they complete the judge's form correctly. I can't tell you how important that is, because when the ballot counters take those ballots away, if there are forms that are not filled out correctly, they're discarded. So good judges need to be accurate and they need to be very committed to making that correct decision. And finally, and most importantly, good judges need to be fair and impartial and not allow for friendship, affiliation, race, sex, creed, national origin, profession, or even a disapproval of a speech topic to interfere with their decision. You may not be very keen on what the topic is, or you might not agree with the speaker's views. That doesn't mean they're not the best speaker according to the criteria. So good judges really focus on the criteria. All right, so everybody wants to set out to be a good judge, but what stops that from happening? And some of the barriers to being objective are really They vary. So let's talk about some of that. So some of the barriers are the first or the last position in speaking order. So when people are presented with a list or a series, they often recall the end of the list first because it's the most recent that was presented to them. And it's the most recent addition technically to their short-term memory. And because of that, people may remember the beginning of a list better than the middle because it serves as a reference point. So judges must compensate for this effect by paying close attention to every contestant and every part of the speech. So just so you know, that's one of the barriers. I don't think any judge sets out to say, well, today I don't want to be objective. Everybody wants to do a good job, but just know that when you're listening, there is sometimes a little problem with remembering beginnings or middles or ends. So if you can take notes during judging, that will help you to recall and really break that person's speech up into parts so that way you're not just remembering, oh, they started with a bang. I don't remember what the middle was about. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. The second phenomenon is championing for the underdog. So people tend to believe that underdogs put forth more effort than an advantaged or more powerful opponent. And so sometimes they think that they're more deserving of success. And now this is nothing intentional. Just know that this is something in the back that might be happening. So judges may only use one criteria on the judge's guide to select winners. And it could be that they're the most dynamic or they look the best or the most polished. So making sure that we're not championing for the underdog and that we're really looking at the whole scorecard. This is another one, the halo effect. So this is an inclination to admire all of a person's actions, work, etc., because of another admirable quality. So it could be they dress really sharp or you like their brooch or something like that. So judges must focus on how each contestant performs using the criteria and ballot. So for example, if a contestant tends to be a speech teacher, this does not automatically make them the better presenter. Likewise, a dynamic delivery style does not signify compelling content. So they could deliver horrible content. That doesn't mean that they're the winner because it was well delivered. The other one is the reverse halo effect. And this is a tendency to disapprove of all of a person's actions because of an unrelated, unworthy quality or action. So resist downgrading a score in one area because you're not happy with the contestant's performance in another area. All right, this other one is second time around. It's common for individuals to see the same contestant compete at different contest levels during the same contest. So you may have, been to an area contest and you saw this contestant compete, and then the next contest, they move up to the division or the district, or the district and then the division, or they may compete from one year to the next and may not change up their speech or just maybe somebody you're familiar with. So judges must remember not to compare an individual's current performance to previous performances or presentations, good or bad. The next one that is a barrier to objectivity is not the norm. So this is a false consensus, and it occurs when an individual believes that the majority of others share their opinion. So regardless of what the opinion is. So for example, in some geographic areas, it's typical for a contestant to stand behind a lectern when speaking. And judges accustomed to this behavior may harshly judge a contestant who doesn't do that, or vice versa. It may be customary not to stand behind a lectern, and then somebody may judge somebody falsely or not in favor if they do. So this behavior is a custom, and it does not directly relate to any of the judging standards. So nowhere on the form does it say stands behind podium or does not. All right. Just because it's out of the norm doesn't mean, as long as it's within the rules, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. So the last one is prejudices and personal preferences. So judging is a subjective process. And that's one that we try to make objective. So the individual opinions of each judge are based on his or her likes and dislikes. And there's no way to control the tastes of judges. So it's really almost impossible for anyone to be totally objective. So contests use panels of judges to restrict the effect of any single judge's bias. So that's why you want to stick to the scorecard. Oh, I didn't click that, sorry. There's the rest of the list. If you were like, what is she reading from? There you go. All right, so we just talked about a whole bunch of barriers to objectivity. And, I think sometimes we need to think about the different things that as judges we need to do, and that common knowledge sometimes doesn't always prevail. So you want to stick to the scorecard and everything like that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the official rules. So if you cannot be objective, you can't be a judge is the bottom line to that. But let's talk about the official rules. So there are official rules, and then there are some of these stories or things that circulate and they become common knowledge rules, but they're not really a part of any official rules. But some people accept them as official rules. So unfortunately, these common knowledge rules can be the purveyors of misinformation. So for example, many Toastmasters believe that international speech contest entries must be serious or motivational or inspirational. But the contest rules state only that contestants create their own substantial original speech. There's no reference to the style, so a humorous speech could be delivered at the international contest. So I think it's really important that we take a look at the official documents before we become a judge. And one of the things is to read the rule book. Now, I don't have time to go over all the rules, but I do want to focus on the judge's ballot, because this will really guide how the contest goes. So you want to become familiar with each ballot. So oftentimes you're going to be judging two contests, most likely the international contest, and I have the ballot presented on the screen for you. The other one that you may be judging is a humorous contest, an evaluation contest, various other contests. So you want to make sure that you have the right ballot and have reviewed that before the contest. It's really important. And you can find those all on Toastmasters International website. So don't get too concerned with that. Your chief judge also should send that out to you. So if you don't receive it, ask for it, because you want to be knowledgeable. Now, if this is the first time you've seen the judge's ballot, there are two sections to the form. The top is the guide so that judges can use that to help select a winner. This is not to be turned in. You keep that. The bottom is the ballot, and you'll notice it has a little line on it. And so typically you'll fold it and tear it. That ballot is what you will give to the ballot counters. You will keep the top, and you can shred that when you leave. You can eat it or whatever you want. It's yours. But the bottom is what is turned into the ballot counter. And you want to note that it has the name of the contestant that is winning. And typically it'll say first, second, third, and then a signature. And 3 different contestants are listed for first, second, third. And the ballot counter is going to make sure that all the contestants are listed and the judge has signed the ballot. So that is super important that you have signed the ballot. So typically you'll tear off the bottom and you'll put it in an envelope. You will hold it up. And that's how the ballot counters will come around and collect it. So the purpose of this guide is to help you make better decisions and remember, select the winners. So the guide is not given to the ballot counters. You can use it in any way you wish. There's no rule or single accepted method for the guide. But I am going to give you a couple of tips because they're helpful. Now, they're not rules. You don't have to follow them. But the one rule is you don't turn it in. So that is a rule. But some tips. So to avoid bias, I suggest that you not fill out the scores during the speech. Instead, take notes on the back. That's what I do. Or on a separate piece of paper and catalog what the speaker did well or what stood out that they maybe didn't do so well. So use those notes to then enter the values for each category on the guide when the speech is concluded. And this helps the judge, focus on the speech instead of the scores. And we're going to talk about the different breakdowns. So if you're like, oh, I want to see those breakdowns again, I'm going to bring that back up. Okay, so write down some notes on a scratch piece of paper and then go in after the speech and evaluate the score. So you can use the point values for each rating. You can also use other points in the range. So if excellent is 20 points, judges can assign fewer points if the contested wasn't excellent. So you'll see the ranges and you can adjust those. One of the other tips is to use a system of pluses and minuses to rate speakers as they compete. After all contestants have spoken, assign points. I prefer to rate each speech as we go because I get confused and I want to avoid that first last thing. So that's in the Toastmasters International Manual as a tip. If you wanted to do plus and minuses, you can do that. The other one that I find really, really helpful is to put the first contestant's name on the very far right column, mark the ballot, and then fold that over. I leave like 1 or 2 lines between them because typically you don't have that many contestants. And then I do the next speech and the next speech. So I'm not comparing between speeches. And that's a big tip that a lot of judges do. It's very helpful. So you would just have to get used to writing this way. But again, remember, nobody is going to see the top of your ballot. They're only going to see the bottom where the actual ballot is. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the scoring sections because that may have been the first time you saw a ballot. So the judges have 3 categories that they are judging on. The first one is content at 50%. The second one is delivery at 30%. And the third is language at 20%. And so I think it's really important to remember that speech content is truly what you're listening for. So sometimes the best delivered speech, to the point earlier, may not have the best content. They may be awesome at delivery, but they may not have the best content. So they may not be the winner because content is 50% of the speech points. So let's break that down. I'm not going to go over all of this, but in content, you're looking at speech delivery. So did the speech have a clearly defined opening, body, and conclusion? Opening, body, and conclusion. 3 parts. So that's really helpful for me when I take notes. I break it up into 3 parts. Were the speaker's ideas presented in easy to follow logical sequence? Did the speaker use effective transitions? Did they leave us hanging or not? And was the speech purpose clear? So I think it's really important to think about the opening. Is that engaging? The body, does it give examples? Does it tell a story? And then the conclusion. So you really want to have those 3 parts. All right, let's talk a little bit about speech development and organization. Now, in the speech development and organization, there's several methods. Now, it doesn't matter which one they use, just know this, that there are several methods to speech development. So you have past, present, future, first, second, third, geographical, so they might move around. You have categories, and you have compare and contrast. It doesn't matter which way they construct their content, but it should be something that makes sense. You also have top, middle, bottom. To continue, you also have top, middle, bottom, general to specific, A before C, critical to important, and optional. So lots of different ways that a speaker can develop their speech. So I want to point out, just because somebody doesn't do it the way that you would do it, like past, present, future, it's really about, is their speech crafted in a way that makes sense? It may not be the way you would do it, but it needs to have an easy to follow, logical sequence. So it should make sense how they organized it. All right. Those are some of the ones. So the next one is in the speech development is the support material. So is everything they're talking about relevant to their topic or thesis? Is it smooth? Are the transitions flowing between stories? Are ideas building on each other? And are there parallels or flashbacks? So just know that there is a lot in the speech development that you're going to be rating as a judge. And just because it's not the way you would do it doesn't mean it's not correct. So the next one is speech effectiveness. So this is really the reactions from the audience, the subject, and is it relevant to the audience? Is it clear? Is it interesting? Does it entertain? What's the purpose? Does it entertain, persuade, inspire? And how was it received? And was it appropriate for the audience? So you may not like the topic, but how this would be something that may not be appropriate for the audience is if you were to talk to them like they're in kindergarten and the audience is adults. So that would be an example of where it may not be appropriate to the audience. The other cool part, or one thing that should be related to the content is it meaningful? Does it have substance and logic? Does it contribute to audience thinking? Can it be humorous? It can be. And does it make you think, touch, or tickle? So just know that there are a lot of different categories in content that you're going to be rating. You want to stick to the scorecard. And that's what's really important. All right, let's talk about delivery. And delivery is one of the best parts about speech contests. It is 30% of the speech points, however. So just know that it's only 30%. So different things to consider. The first one is physical. And this is the appearance, the body language. Is it appropriate? Is it purposeful? Did they use the speaking area? Do they appear to be congruent with what they're talking about? So if somebody's talking about a really sad topic, but they're really loud and excitable, that probably isn't congruent. You want to think about their face, their hands, body movement, eye contact, maybe distractors. Maybe they play with their hair or they do something funny on their nose or whatever. So this is really the physical appearance. I love this little guy on the screen. He looks like he's having such a blast. The next one is body language and position. So what's their posture? Are they slumped over? Are they standing straight? Do they have energy? Are they purposeful? Are they believable? And I think that's really important as well. The next one is the voice. Do they enunciate? Do you understand what they're saying? Can you hear them? Are they clear and in their statements? Are they flexible? And then what's the texture of their voice? So that's always a fun one. And then lastly, under delivery is their manner. So are they direct to the point? Do they assure us? Is their manner congruent with their enthusiasm? And are they interesting to the audience? And are they also confident in the audience reactions? So if they tell a joke, is the audience going to laugh? So I think that's really important. So their manner. So those are the three things under delivery: physical, voice, and manner. And that's 30% of the score. So next up is language. And that's 20% of the score. And that reflects word choice and their grammatical skill. So many people are like, okay, this is 20%. All right, great. So the first one is making sure that they are choosing the right words. Is it creative? Does it paint a picture? Is it descriptive? Does the word choice promote understanding of the message and one that the speaker intended? Is it in good taste? Is it suited to the thesis? And does it provide a clear understanding of thoughts? The other thing is it correct? Do they choose the right words? Do they use the right pronunciation? Does the language reflect study and preparation? And is it effective? So we don't provide a very detailed description on the scorecard, but this gives you kind of an idea of what you're looking for. And when you do look at the scorecard, it breaks it down in different points. So I want to point out one thing. The guide does not include a space for speech time. So when you're filling out that scorecard, you are not to be concerned with the speech time at all. Because the speech time truly is, I skipped one, there you go. The speech time truly is the timer's responsibility. So even if you're sitting right next to the timer and they raise a red card, that's not your responsibility. You pick, as the judge, the speaker who delivered the best speech that day based on your scorecard. You don't have to worry about anything else. But what do you have to worry about? I did mention the rules and reading the rule book. So what should you worry about? So one of the things is to worry about there's really three things that you need to worry about. The first thing is whether or not you know that contestant. So you want to make sure that you're not judging somebody that you cannot be objective when judging. So maybe somebody in your club, somebody that you're really close to, you probably shouldn't be a judge. So just know that you shouldn't judge them. But there are some times when you may protest. And there's two groups of people that can do a protest. So it can be a judge or a contestant can protest. Those two groups of people. So random audience member who's not a Toastmaster can't protest. Bob, the janitor who happened to walk in during the speech, can't protest. And a judge or a contestant would protest to the chief judge, and there would be a reason for that. And it would be on originality. So the protest would be on if somebody plagiarized a speech, maybe they stole the whole speech, or they partially plagiarized, or they have too much quoting. So they quoted more than 25% of their speech. And there is a procedure for that. And they would lodge that protest with the chief judge prior to the end of the results being announced. And you will find this in the rule book. It'll also be in your chief judge's briefing. They'll go over how to lodge a protest. Now, it is a little different for online than in-person contests. So just know that you want to be listening for, as a judge, is this original? So if somebody started off their speech 7 years ago, and then they read the whole thing, that's probably a protest. Or if they quote it, that's fine too. So you're going to have to really think about, is this original? And then you will lodge a protest. Your responsibility is not to decide whether or not it's plagiarized. You're to provide some content as to why you think it is, and then the chief judge will handle that. So just know that. All right. So there are some reasons that people may be disqualified as a speaker. And one of them is eligibility. So they might not be eligible to speak. You don't have to worry about that. The contest manager and chief judge will take care of that before. But if you think somebody is ineligible, feel free to let them know. But they will be disqualified if they are not eligible. The second one is originality, and we do want you to be listening for originality as a judge. The third reason somebody may be disqualified is for timing. Remember, you don't have to worry about timing. That goes back to the timers, and they will take care of that if somebody goes over time. So just know, if you're like, oh, this person is the best speaker ever, and they don't end up winning, or if somebody's disqualified, it may be because they're disqualified, and that will be announced that somebody's disqualified. Okay. All right. So we're coming to the conclusion, almost done, to the finish line. So I think what's really important is for you to practice. And just like you practice a speech, you want to practice marking the forms and analyzing the forms. So I encourage you to download the judge's form. Next time you're at a Toastmasters meeting, just listen to the speeches and pretend like you're judging, because that will give you the practice of how to manage your notes, how to compile your forms, and how to score everything. So that'll give you some knowledge of the forms and some practice on that. So it's always good to take a couple little practice runs. I like to suggest maybe 2 to 3 Toastmasters meetings before start practicing with the judges' forms. All right, in summary, we really are appreciative of all our judges. We don't expect you to do everything during the contest. We expect you to have a clear mind and listen. Do your best. Please do everything you can to be objective. Support the rules. Know what you're responsible for in the rules. So make sure you've read the rule book and uphold your ethics. And remember, practice, practice, practice. I think that's so important. I know so many judges that want to do such a good job and they're brand new, but if you haven't practiced, it's really a tough job. So get some practice in, organize your notes, and don't worry, you will do great. But remember, your role is to pick the best speaker that day for the speech, not to worry about anything else. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for considering becoming a judge. If you are interested in being put onto the judges list, you can feel free to let us know. We do have a list of people who are interested in judging, and you can email the chief judge in District 3, and we'll be able to get you on that list. Again, Sara Mayer here. So excited that you're considering judging for our upcoming contest season. It's one of the most rewarding positions. It's so much fun, and you get to learn a lot from the speakers. They're just great. Signing off for now. Have a good rest of your day.